I never thought a single glance could unravel my confidence, until a billionaire's mocking laugh echoed through the gala. My dress, a labor of love stitched with dreams, became his punchline. But that night, the waltz became my weapon, and the dance floor my battlefield. By the end, his smug smile was gone, replaced by stunned silence. Want to know how I turned humiliation into triumph? Stick around for a story of resilience, grace, and a dance that changed everything. The grand ballroom glittered under chandeliers, a sea of wealth and elegance. I stood at the edge, clutching my homemade dress, its soft blue fabric shimmering faintly. Months of late nights, pricked fingers, and quiet hopes had gone into every stitch. It wasn't designer, but it was mine, a reflection of my heart. I'd saved for weeks to attend this charity gala, a rare chance to mingle with the elite. My invitation came through a scholarship, a ticket to a world I barely knew. The air buzzed with laughter and clinking glasses, but I felt like an outsider. Eyes scanned me, some curious, others dismissive. I smoothed my dress, feeling its familiar texture ground me. I was here to network, to chase my dream of launching a fashion line. But doubt crept in. Did I belong among these polished strangers? A deep breath steadied me. I stepped forward, determined to make the night count. Then I saw him, Ethan Caldwell, billionaire tech mogul, striding through the crowd. His presence commanded attention, and I couldn't look away. Little did I know, he'd soon turn my night upside down. Ethan's reputation preceded him, ruthless in business, charming in public. His tailored tuxedo screamed money, and his smile dazzled the room. I watched him charm a group of investors, his laugh sharp and confident. I envied his ease, his unshakable place in this world. I adjusted my dress, feeling its simplicity stark against the designer gowns around me. I'd spent hours sketching this dress, inspired by vintage patterns and my grandmother's stories. It hugged my frame, modest yet bold, with a flowing skirt that felt like freedom. I dreamed of wearing it here, hoping it would speak for me. But as I moved through the crowd, I felt eyes linger, not in admiration but judgment. A woman in a glittering gown whispered to her friend, glancing my way. My cheeks burned, but I lifted my chin. I reminded myself why I was here, to pitch my designs, to find a backer. I scanned the room for a friendly face, someone to approach. Then Ethan's gaze locked onto mine, and my heart skipped. This was my chance, or so I thought. He approached, his stride purposeful, his eyes glinting with curiosity. "Interesting dress," he said, his tone dripping with amusement. The crowd around us quieted, sensing something. I smiled, ready to explain its inspiration, but his next words stopped me cold. "Did you borrow it from a thrift store costume bin?" Laughter rippled through his entourage. My stomach dropped, heat flooding my face. The dress I'd poured my soul into was reduced to a joke. I opened my mouth, but words failed me. His smirk widened, as if my silence confirmed his quip. I wanted to disappear, to run from the ballroom's suffocating opulence. But something in me stirred, a spark of defiance. I'd worked too hard to let his words define me. I straightened, meeting his gaze. "It's handmade," I said, my voice steady despite my racing heart. His eyebrow arched, unimpressed. The crowd waited, hungry for more drama. I knew I had to act, not crumble. The orchestra struck up a waltz, its melody sweeping through the room. Couples drifted to the dance floor, their movements graceful and practiced. I saw my escape, a chance to shift the narrative. "Care to dance?" I asked Ethan, my voice bolder than I felt. His laugh was sharp, almost cruel. "With you, in that?" he said, gesturing at my dress. The crowd tittered, and my resolve hardened. I wouldn't let him humiliate me further. "Yes, with me," I replied, holding his gaze. For a moment, he hesitated, caught off guard by my audacity. Then, with a shrug, he extended his hand, as if humoring me. The crowd parted as we stepped onto the dance floor. My heart pounded, but I knew this was my moment. I'd grown up dancing in my grandmother's living room, her old records teaching me every step. I wasn't just going to dance, I was going to command the floor. Ethan had no idea what was coming. The waltz began, and I let the music guide me. My dress flowed with each turn, its skirt catching the light. Ethan's grip was firm, but his steps were mechanical, lacking soul. I, however, danced with every ounce of my being. My movements were fluid, precise, born of years of practice and passion. I felt the crowd's eyes on us, their whispers fading into stunned silence. Ethan tried to lead, but I subtly took control, guiding us through intricate spins. My dress, once mocked, became an extension of my grace, its simplicity now striking. I caught glimpses of faces, some surprised, others enchanted. Ethan's smirk faltered, his confidence shaken. He hadn't expected this, hadn't expected me. I leaned into the music, letting it carry my story. Each step was a defiance of his judgment, each turn a reclaiming of my worth. The waltz was no longer just a dance, it was my rebellion. As the music swelled, I felt alive, unstoppable. Ethan struggled to keep up, his polished facade cracking. My dress, once a source of shame, now felt like armor. I spun, my skirt flaring, drawing gasps from the crowd. I wasn't just dancing, I was telling a story of resilience, of beauty born from struggle. Ethan's eyes narrowed, but I didn't care. This wasn't about him anymore. It was about me. The orchestra's tempo quickened, and I matched it, my steps bold and sure. I remembered my grandmother's voice, "Dance like you're free, child." And I was. The crowd began to clap, their rhythm syncing with the music. Ethan's grip tightened, but I didn't falter. I led us through a final, daring spin, my dress a blur of blue. As the music peaked, I felt a surge of triumph. I turned his mockery into my moment. The song ended, and the room erupted in applause. Ethan released my hand, stepping back, his face unreadable. The crowd surged forward, their praise washing over me. "Who designed your dress?" a woman asked, her eyes wide with admiration. "I did," I said, my voice clear and proud. Whispers spread. My dress, my dance, my story were now the talk of the gala. Ethan stood silent, his earlier arrogance gone. I caught his eye, and for a moment I saw something new, respect, maybe regret. I didn't linger on it. I turned to the crowd, answering questions, sharing my vision. A man in a sharp suit approached, introducing himself as a fashion investor. My heart raced. This was the chance I'd come for. We talked, and he asked for my portfolio. I handed him my card, my confidence soaring. The night, once a nightmare, was now a dream unfolding. Ethan's laugh had sparked my fire, and I was burning bright. The investor's interest was genuine, his questions sharp and engaged. I spoke of my designs, my inspiration drawn from everyday beauty, from people like me who dared to dream big. He nodded, scribbling notes, promising to follow up. Others joined us, drawn by the buzz of my dance and dress. I felt like I belonged, not as an outsider, but as a creator with something to say. My dress, once mocked, was now a conversation starter. People asked about its fabric, its construction, its story. I shared how I'd taught myself to sew, how each stitch was a step toward this moment. The gala, once intimidating, now felt like my stage. I glanced at Ethan, now on the sidelines, watching quietly. His laughter had been a catalyst, pushing me to prove myself. I didn't need his approval, I'd earned the rooms. The night was mine, and I was just getting started. As the evening wore on, I mingled with designers, philanthropists, and dreamers like me. My dress, once a target, was now a badge of courage. People shared their own stories of overcoming doubt, and I felt a kinship with them. I realized the gala wasn't just about wealth, it was about connection, about stories told through art and action. My dance had spoken louder than Ethan's words ever could. I caught him watching me again, his expression softer now. I didn't approach him. I didn't need to. My victory was in the conversations I was having, the doors opening before me. The orchestra played on, and I felt the urge to dance again. A young designer asked me to join her on the floor, and I did, laughing as we twirled. My dress flowed, a reminder of my strength. The night had tested me, but I'd emerged stronger, ready for whatever came next. By midnight, my feet ached, but my spirit soared. I'd collected cards, made connections, and planted seeds for my future. My dress, my dance, my defiance had turned heads and opened hearts. I stepped onto the balcony for a moment of quiet, the city lights sparkling below. I thought of my grandmother, her lessons echoing in every step I'd taken. She'd be proud, I knew. I'd turned a billionaire's laugh into a moment of triumph. The gala was winding down, but my journey was just beginning. I felt a hand on my shoulder, a woman from the crowd, thanking me for inspiring her. We talked, and I realized my story was bigger than me. It was for anyone who'd ever felt less than enough. I returned to the ballroom, ready to close the night strong. Ethan was gone, but his lesson lingered. Never let anyone dim your light. The next morning, my phone buzzed with messages, follow-ups from the gala, inquiries about my designs. I sat at my small kitchen table, my dress draped over a chair, still radiant in the morning light. I traced its seams, remembering the nights I'd spent perfecting it. Ethan's laugh echoed in my mind, but it no longer stung. Instead, it fueled me. I opened my laptop, drafting emails to the contacts I'd made. The investor's card sat beside me, a promise of possibility. I wrote with confidence, sharing my vision for a fashion line that celebrated authenticity. My dress wasn't just fabric, it was a statement, a story of resilience. I imagined it on runways, in stores, worn by people who felt seen. The gala had been a turning point, but this was the real work. I sipped my coffee, feeling the weight of opportunity. Ethan's mockery had pushed me to shine, and I wasn't stopping now. Days later, I met the investor at a sleek downtown office. My dress was tucked away, but its spirit was with me. I wore a simple blouse I'd designed, its clean lines a nod to my style. The investor, Mr. Larson, greeted me warmly, his enthusiasm clear. He'd been impressed by my dance, my story, my grit. We pored over my portfolio, sketches of dresses inspired by real lives, not just luxury. He asked about my process, my goals, my challenges. I spoke honestly, sharing how I'd learned to sew from YouTube tutorials, how I'd saved every penny for this dream. He nodded, his eyes thoughtful. "You're not just a designer," he said. "You're a storyteller." My heart swelled. This was the validation I'd craved. He offered to fund a small collection, a chance to prove myself. I left his office floating, my future brighter than ever. Back home, I dove into work, sketching new designs with renewed fire. My dress from the gala became my muse, its simplicity a canvas for bolder ideas. I experimented with textures, colors, patterns that told stories of struggle and triumph. Each sketch felt like a piece of me, a way to honor the night that changed everything. I thought of Ethan often, not with anger, but gratitude. His laugh had been cruel, but it had pushed me to prove myself. I wondered if he'd seen the articles about the gala, my name mentioned alongside rising designers. I hoped he had. I wanted him to know his words hadn't broken me, they'd built me. My small apartment became a studio, fabric and thread spilling everywhere. I worked late, fueled by passion and possibility. The gala had been a spark. Now, I was a flame. Weeks later, I attended another event, this time as an invited guest. My new dress, a bold red creation, turned heads as I entered. I felt different now, more assured, less like an imposter. People approached me, remembering my waltz, my story. I networked with ease, my confidence no longer fragile. Mr. Larson was there, introducing me to his colleagues. "She's the one to watch," he said, and I smiled, owning the moment. I scanned the room, half expecting to see Ethan, but he wasn't there. It didn't matter. I'd outgrown his shadow. My designs were gaining traction, my name circulating in fashion circles. I danced again that night, not a waltz, but a lively swing with a fellow designer. My dress moved with me, a testament to my growth. The room felt like home now, a place where I belonged. I was no longer the girl in the mocked dress. I was a force. My first collection launched months later, a small but vibrant line. The gala dress inspired its centerpiece, a reimagined version in deep sapphire. The launch event was intimate, held in a local gallery, but the buzz was electric. Attendees admired the craftsmanship, the stories behind each piece. Mr. Larson beamed, proud of his investment. I spoke to the crowd, sharing how a billionaire's laugh had sparked this journey. They listened, captivated, some wiping tears. My dresses weren't just clothes, they were symbols of defiance, of dreams made real. Orders came in, more than I'd hoped. Social media buzzed with photos of my designs, hashtags celebrating my story. I felt my grandmother's presence, her lessons woven into every thread. The girl who'd stood trembling at the gala was gone. In her place was a designer, a storyteller, a woman who'd silenced doubt with grace. Ethan's name resurfaced in a news article, a profile on his latest venture. I read it, curious about the man who'd changed my path. The article mentioned the gala, his brief clash with an unknown designer. That was me, I realized, smiling. I wondered if he remembered, if he regretted his words. I didn't need his apology. I'd already won. My collection was selling, my inbox full of collaboration offers. I hired a small team, fellow dreamers who believed in my vision. We worked in a rented studio, a space alive with creativity. My dresses were now in boutiques, worn by women who felt empowered in them. I thought of the gala often, not as a wound, but a turning point. Ethan's laugh had been a gift in disguise, pushing me to claim my place. I was building something real, something lasting. The waltz had been just the beginning. A year after the gala, I was invited to speak at a design conference. My topic, turning adversity into art. I stood on stage, my original gala dress displayed beside me. The audience leaned in as I shared my story, Ethan's laugh, my waltz, my triumph. They laughed, gasped, cheered. I wore a new design, a flowing gown that felt like victory. The dress was a nod to my roots, but bolder, more assured. I spoke of resilience, of creating beauty from pain. The audience asked questions, hungry for more. I felt like a mentor now, not just a survivor. My story was inspiring others, just as others had inspired me. I mentioned my grandmother, her lessons the heartbeat of my work. The gala had been a crucible, forging me into someone new. I ended my talk with a call to embrace every challenge. The applause was thunderous, my heart full. After the conference, a young designer approached me, her eyes bright with dreams. She'd made her own dress, just as I had, and faced her own critics. We talked for hours, sharing stories of doubt and defiance. I gave her my card, promising to mentor her. I saw myself in her, the same hunger, the same fire. My journey was now a beacon for others, a reminder that no one's judgment defines you. I thought of Ethan again, wondering if he'd ever faced his own reckoning. It didn't matter. He was a footnote in my story. My dresses were now in major stores, my name a rising star. I was planning a second collection, this one bolder, riskier. The gala had taught me to take chances, to trust my voice. I was no longer afraid of laughter or judgment. I was creating, thriving, living my truth. My team grew, and so did my ambitions. We moved to a larger studio, a space filled with light and ideas. I hired more designers, each with their own stories, their own struggles. We became a family, united by a shared vision. My dresses were now worn by influencers, artists, everyday women who saw themselves in my work. I launched a scholarship fund, helping young designers attend events like the gala that changed my life. I wanted to give others the chance I'd fought for. My story was featured in a magazine, the headline bold, "From Mockery to Mastery." The article mentioned Ethan's laugh, my waltz, my rise. I smiled, knowing millions would read it. My dresses were more than fashion. They were a movement. I was building a legacy, one stitch at a time. The girl who'd once felt small was now unstoppable. One evening, I received an unexpected email. It was from Ethan Caldwell. My heart paused as I opened it. He wrote of the gala, of his regret for his words. He'd followed my journey, seen my designs in stores. "You proved me wrong," he wrote. "Your talent silenced me." I stared at the screen, unsure how to feel. His apology was sincere, but it wasn't what drove me. I'd moved beyond his judgment long ago. I replied, thanking him for his words, but keeping it brief. His laugh had been a spark, but I was the fire. I didn't need his validation. I'd earned my own. I closed my laptop, looking at the dress hanging in my studio. It was the gala dress, now framed, a reminder of my strength. The waltz had been my turning point, but my journey was far from over. I was just beginning to dance. My second collection launched to a packed runway show. The venue was a historic theater, its stage a perfect canvas for my vision. Models wore my designs, each piece telling a story of courage, identity, and joy. The audience was diverse: designers, buyers, fans, and dreamers. I watched from backstage, my heart racing with pride. The gala dress inspired the finale, a gown that blended simplicity with bold elegance. The crowd gasped as the model twirled, the fabric catching the light. Reviews called the collection transformative, a celebration of authenticity. I thought of Ethan's laugh, now a distant memory. My success wasn't about proving him wrong, it was about proving myself right. I stepped onto the stage for my bow, the applause deafening. I was no longer the girl in the homemade dress. I was a designer, a storyteller, a force reshaping fashion. The success of my collection opened new doors. I was invited to collaborate with a major brand, a dream I'd barely dared to imagine. We met in their sleek headquarters, their team eager to blend my vision with their reach. I brought sketches, inspired by the gala and the women who'd worn my dresses since. We talked for hours, ideas flowing like the waltz that started it all. I felt a surge of gratitude for every struggle, every stitch, every moment of doubt. They'd all led me here. My team celebrated with me, their belief in me unwavering. We were no longer a small operation. We were a brand with a voice. I thought of my grandmother, her lessons the foundation of my work. I wished she could see this, see me. The girl who danced through humiliation was now leading a movement. Social media amplified my story, my dresses trending worldwide. Women shared photos, tagging me with stories of how my designs made them feel seen. I read every message, moved by their words. My scholarship fund grew, supporting dozens of young designers. I mentored them, sharing the lessons of the gala. "Your critics don't define you," I told them. "Your courage does." I thought of Ethan's email, his acknowledgement of my triumph. It was a small victory, but not the one that mattered. My real victory was in the lives I was touching, the dreams I was helping grow. My studio buzzed with energy, new collections in the works. I was planning a line for everyday women, affordable yet bold. The gala had been a spark, but this was my fire. I was building something timeless. A year later, I was invited back to the charity gala. The irony wasn't lost on me. I designed a new dress for the occasion, a silver gown that shimmered like starlight. As I entered the ballroom, heads turned, but this time with admiration. I was no longer an outsider. I was a guest of honor. Mr. Larson was there, proud of our partnership. We'd launched a capsule collection together, a hit with critics and buyers. I mingled with ease, my story now part of the gala's lore. People asked about the dress, the dance, the billionaire's laugh. I shared it with a smile, no longer stung by the memory. Ethan wasn't there, but his absence didn't dim my light. I danced again, this time with a young designer I was mentoring. My gown flowed, a symbol of my journey. The waltz had silenced him, but it had awakened me. If this story moved you, join me on this journey. Subscribe to my channel for more tales of triumph, creativity, and resilience. Hit that button, and let's keep dancing through life's challenges together.